Geog A to Z, supporting the National Festival of Fieldwork from the Geographical Association. Do join in. Today is R4 River. So just take a moment to think about the sorts of vocabulary that would be normally associated with that topic when teaching early years Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2 children. The cognitive load of this vocabulary, the vocabulary that you might have in your knowledge organizer, in your medium-term planning, in your week-by-week planning, is quite high. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot to get children to navigate and to comprehend in terms of the different language that we use to describe rivers and the whole system of a river. That's what I want you to really start to think about. We're teaching them much more than just the river itself. We teach them about the physical properties of the river, of course, but we're also thinking about those human influences as well. And the risk is with this list of vocabulary, even if we categorize it like I have done into features and the water cycle and the movement of the river, into the environmental and natural elements and the processes, the human aspect is missing. And certainly that's one thing I want to focus on today, alongside making sure that these key features, these key processes and elements of the river can be taught as well. So just a moment there, just to gaze at that cognitive load that we're trying to get children, maybe by the age of 11, to have seen and to have understood. And of course, the seen bit in terms of field work is the important thing, because many of those things they will not actually get to see in the field. They must get to see at some point through their primary years some sort of river, some sort of culvert, links to canals. Maybe they'll get to see a pond and start to think about, well, where does the water come from and go to? So we need to think about where in our locality can they see some sort of blue space, some sort of river system, some sort of aspect of where the water pools and collects and where the water is transported around their locality, as well as thinking, of course, about what's under the ground as well. So here are some gratuitous images just from my photo files of rivers that I've seen. These may echo the sorts of rivers near you, or you may be thinking, well, actually these are very, very different. We could never take our children to rivers like this. We could never get them so close. We could never see these sorts of types of landscapes with the children that we work in, because we just don't live in this sort of area. So some of this has got to be done virtually. Some of this has got to be connecting to what you can see locally, but also linking to UK or global perspectives as well. So just be musing while I'm showing you these images. Which of these represents anywhere that might be near you, or might be a bus or a train ride from you, or might be on a journey to swimming, a journey to somewhere else that you go, maybe on a school field trip somewhere else, that you could stop and get them off the coach and get them to stand on the side of that river and just look over. Think about those incidental opportunities to do river work, as well as that big kind of, we're going to go there and do some sampling there. Maybe you're near a big city, this is London obviously, and you could get them towards the Thames because you're going on a journey somewhere else. So think about, through your curriculum, where are those opportunities to go on those paths, to go on those viewpoints where you can see what happens by a river, to see the perspective that you can have from seeing it from on high. It's probably not many of you will see these sorts of upper course aspects of a river where you can genuinely see the meanders, or see, in this example here from the northeast, where it flows through a historic house and has been really channeled to provide a source of power. So just bear in mind, this might be all you can see. This might be the kind of perspective of a river. It's a bit of a muddy, messy stream, really. And of course, as I've said, you need to connect it to the wider world. You need to be thinking about the Alps, thinking about the Himalayas, and so on. So think about those connections through your curriculum as well, where you're making those local links to UK links and to global links as well. But as I said, it's the human aspect. How are we going to connect it to what humans do in the river, and how we think about how rivers flow, how we slow down rivers, how we create habitats for different wildlife that we want to think about. Because it is those users of the river, it is those people who support and allow the river to thrive and not just move the water away as fast as possible, that we need to consider. And think about the urban complexity. This is in East London. This is the real challenge of having railways and um, urban infrastructure that needs to crisscross these waterways. So the waterways are often hidden. Certainly there are many boroughs near me where you really can't see much evidence of that river because it's been piped away or culverted away, or you may have those stories like we do in London of lost rivers, and they can be quite transporting really, because we really get the children to think about how we've not valued these for the sorts of things that a river could be used for. But tap into, with younger children, that sense of, well, what still does manage to thrive and survive by that river, particularly in the spring and the summer? What might we spot if we spend some time really looking and stopping and standing and staring at that river? Maybe you're in more northern areas where you've got pretty impressive rivers with quite grand levees here and impressive bridges as well. So maybe again, this could be a journey that you take where you see the river from the side of a rail carriage. Again, another global perspective. Sometimes they don't look like rivers at all. This is from the Yangtze River in China, where they really have decided to create urban areas that are very separate from their rivers because they are really full of water through the year, and they're really quite um, um, challenging rivers to navigate during certain floody times of the year. Have children ever dammed a river? It's unlikely you'll be able to do this in school, but maybe as part of the Year 6 journey, maybe as part of other opportunities to go near a river, they may have a chance to really think about how the river flows and how you can stop that river flow, how you can cause it to back up, how you can really get in there. Of course, there are health and safety things you need to be aware of in this respect, but have they ever seen that opportunity, even if they just watch a video of it? Many of us will have done that in our youths. And then, of course, there's the destructive power of the river as well. So it's this story of the river that we need to build up. This is Worcester, and this is the River Severn. So this is a very flooded town, very flooded city that is very prone, like Chester and other places up and down the country, to humans having to move, humans having to cope with rising waters through the winter and the spring season. So bear in mind that kind of, as I say, the story of the river, the perspective that we get when we start to think about not just that trickle, not just that culverted, let's get this little bit of water out of the way, but the kind of breadth and power of the river that we need to try and cover with children at Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. Stepping stones. Maybe they've never experienced that, but it is quite a powerful thing to be able to walk across a river. Again, these might be images that you show to children. These are the things you can do in or near a river. These are the things that a river can offer us. Because we need to think about a definition. What is a river? And it's, again, worth you perhaps pausing the video and thinking, have I even got one? What is a river? How could we describe it? So we've got to think about the movement, as I've mentioned already. So it's a stream of water that flows across the land. And as you've seen in some of the images, it starts in mountains or hills where the rain or possibly the melting snow or glacier gathers, and that's the source. But of course, the water constantly gets added. That's something that we do sometimes neglect to tell children. There are lots of mini tributaries, there's lots of runoff from roads and other sorts of sources of water as well, including sewage water from time to time. And that gets added as these waters travel downhill, that winds through the valleys and the fields and the forests and the towns and the cities. And naturally, it gets wider and bigger as the small tributaries join. And then along the course of the river, rivers create interesting shapes. So you have the meanders that they might see, or they might see that the meanders have been taken out, or maybe being put back in some cases. And there may even be waterfalls as well. And eventually that river will reach the bigger body of water, which could be a lake, the sea, or the ocean, and that's the mouth. And of course, we need to think about there's a purpose of a river for us and us being close to the river, because they might be important to us, because they give us water to drink and use on farms, they help animals and plants live and grow, they can be used for fun things like boating or fishing, and people often enjoy visiting them or actually by living by them. So wherever it is locally, however concrete lined or filled with bricks, or however much of a trickle you have, however much of a challenge that river is to really get across to them how this connects to the upper course or to the mouth, we need to try and have images of local rivers or take them to that little bit of river, that little bit of water that they can see. It may be very, very channeled. It may not really represent anything natural at all in a kind of conventional sense, but we need to show them that patch of nettles covered by a bridge with nothing even underneath it. It may have completely dried out in the summer, but we need to try and get them there to see the fact that this is what we call a river. And this is a river that's very close to my heart. This is a river that I saw a lot as a child. And you can see there the course is completely disrupted by the sides of the river that have been channeled, the big drop there, meter drop or more, where you've got that artificial waterfall and then the concrete base, and then it drops down again. So dropping down that water, causing that water to be able to be used by industry has been something that's happened over the last 250 plus years to drive water wheels and so on. And maybe that's the connection that you need to have. Certainly the borough I am in used to have as its symbol a water wheel, because that was one story about our locality in terms of the river and the water wheels that we still have along its course. So think about those wider stories, how that river connects to the human culture near you that you might want to try and find out about. But it's that wider story that you need to have, whatever that story actually is. Tomorrow, we're talking about soil.